Parce que l'ONU, par exemple, l'ONU n'est pas une nation, n'est pas un État, mais c'est l'ensemble des États. Si alors les États ne s'entendent plus, sont disloqués, c'est-à-dire la société est disloquée, et vous commencez à sentir que la gouvernance mondiale commence à connaître des failles. Alors, où est-ce qu'on va pour résoudre ce problème? Il faut commencer par les origines. Les États qui s'unissent entre eux au niveau régional. Il faut que dans la région, nous soyons coordonnés parce que c'est facile. C'est facile de coordonner les régions parce que nous partageons des valeurs sociales. Nous avons un même mode de vie et de pensée. Nous avons des intérêts communs. Alors à ce moment-là, comme nous avons naturellement des sujets, des intérêts communs que nous partageons, chacun s'il perd l'autre, il perd automatiquement sa vie. Donc c'est facile d'unir la communauté parce que nous partageons les valeurs sociales, nous partageons des intérêts communs, nous partageons tout. Alors ça sera facile de nous coordonner. Et si la région est consolidée, ce sont les régions qui vont se consolider entre elles. C'est-à-dire, par exemple, l'Union africaine. Si l'Union africaine est consolidée et que c'est bien organisé, l'Union africaine va se joindre à une autre organisation continentale. Et en fait de compte, toutes les régions seront unies et la gouvernance mondiale prendra sa force. Donc, je pense que maintenant que nous constatons des failles au niveau de la gouvernance mondiale,
et cela démontre évidemment un intérêt que tous ces pays ont à vivre en paix, stable et en tenant compte évidemment des intérêts de chacun. C'est très important, je pense, d'aller sur cette voie d'intégration régionale parce qu'elle permet d'aborder les problèmes en connaissance de cause. Dans la région, les pays généralement vivent ensemble, se connaissent. Il y a une approche humaine et culturelle qui fait que tous les problèmes peuvent être abordés de manière, à savoir comment les aborder de manière sereine et en cherchant évidemment des solutions plus appropriées. Tandis que lorsque ces problèmes sont regardés par le multilatéralisme, on sent une certaine distance et une certaine inefficacité à aborder et à les régler.
Ladies and gentlemen, your panelists are the President of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, His Excellency Félix Tshisekedi, His Excellency the President of Burundi and also the Chairperson of the African Union, Évariste Ndayishimiye. We have Cevdet Yilmaz, the Vice President of the Republic of Turkey, Felix Jr., the Vice President of the Republic of El Salvador, Juro Matsut, His Excellency the Prime Minister of the Republic of Serbia, and Hikmat Hajiev, who is Assistant to the President and the Head of the Department of Foreign Policy Affairs at the Presidential Administration of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Thank you so much for being here. Vice President Yilmaz, as you are the host of the country staging the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, I'll ask all of you to just give a brief remark, 3-4 minutes perhaps, of how you see regional ownership in the world we're living in today. Mr. Vice President. And don't forget, please, gentlemen, you'll have to press your button to talk, and then press it again when you are finished.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to welcome all our guests. We are very happy to host them here in Antalya, Turkey. And I hope this interaction, this very important event, will contribute to peace and security in our world, in our region. As you have referred to, there is a big transformation at the global level. Unfortunately, international rules and institutions are weakening, and the post-World War II order is being transformed not only in political terms, but also economically. There is a new balance of economic production, trade in the world, and also rising geopolitical tensions. And we feel this very clearly in our region. In this environment, in this transition period, the risks are high, the challenges are high, but also there are new opportunities, new ways of securing our environment, providing our people welfare and prosperity. And in that context, I believe bilateral and regional cooperation becomes even more important. They are always important, bilateral regional cooperation, but in a turbulent time where we don't see any order at the global level, these bilateral and regional cooperations become even more important. As Turkey, we are favoring diplomacy, as is evident in this organization, over conflicts, and we definitely prefer stability over instability and insecurity in our environment. That is why we are being part of multiple regional cooperations. On the one hand, we are part of NATO and we are a candidate country to EU. On the other hand, we are looking for new regional organizations like the Organization of Turkic States, more cooperation among Islamic countries, and more regional security structures for our region to be more secure. In these turbulent times, leadership becomes even more important. Leaders are always important, but in such turbulent times, I believe leaders are even more important. And in that sense, President Erdoğan's call for a fairer world order is clearly a very important objective for all of us. We have to pursue two objectives at the same time, simultaneously. On the one hand, we have to work together for a new global order, a fairer world. We shouldn't, lose our sight on this objective. But at the same time, we have to be very realistic and look for, as I said, regional bilateral cooperations to overcome the challenges of these difficult times. As Turkey, we are always supporting dialogue, diplomacy over conflicts. And we know that wars are not good for any party, and a just peace is good for all of us. That's why we have to face these two ways. One way brings us to more instability, human cost, economic cost, environmental cost, and the other way, which is diplomacy, negotiation, negotiated solutions, and more cooperation among countries will bring us more stability and security in our future. That's why, as Turkey, we will continue to keep our channels of communication with all parties and look for cooperation with African countries, Asian countries, Latin American countries, and reach wherever we can to establish these ties for the good of our people and for the good of our global environment. That's why I believe this ADF is very timely, very important, and it gives us a hope for the future of the world. We shouldn't lose our hopes for the future. Human beings, as human beings with an accumulated knowledge of history, we should find ways to overcome our difficulties, not by fighting or but destroying each other, but by cooperation to generate win-win situation for all parties. And we will continue in this direction.
It'll be really interesting to hear, because none of you are as intimately involved as the core Middle Eastern countries in trying to find a resolution to the big insecurity that's happening across the Middle East. So we can maybe come to that later, how regional cooperation is being conducted there. Okay, let's start from my left and move downwards. Mr. President, Your Excellency Tshisekedi, would you like to, don't forget to press the microphone button, over to you.
Merci. Avant toute chose, j'aimerais saluer et remercier le président Recep Tayyip Erdoğan pour son invitation, mais aussi le féliciter pour cette initiative que je trouve opportune et vraiment importante à ce stade de la vie diplomatique en ce moment dans le monde. Je dirais l'appropriation régionale, pour moi, est un élément très essentiel dans la stabilité du monde actuellement. Évidemment, le multilatéralisme a montré ses limites, mais je ne pense pas qu'il soit venu le temps de balayer ce multilatéralisme. Nous en avons besoin, mais simplement il faut le rebâtir, il faut le refonder à partir des régions. Parce que l'appropriation régionale a l'avantage d'avoir une sorte de rapidité, de réactivité en temps de crise, mais également il offre beaucoup d'opportunités d'intégration économique qui feront que par cette intégration économique, toute la région va trouver des raisons de vivre en paix afin de protéger ses intérêts. Je fais ici allusion, par exemple, aux grands projets qui nous intéressent tous en ce moment dans la région d'Afrique centrale. Il s'agit du corridor de l'Obito, qui est ce corridor d'intégration économique qui nous permettra d'évacuer toutes nos productions vers des centres de consommation sur d'autres continents. Et cela démontre évidemment un intérêt que tous ces pays ont à vivre en paix, stable et en tenant compte évidemment des intérêts de chacun. C'est très important, je pense, d'aller sur cette voie d'intégration régionale parce qu'elle permet d'aborder les problèmes en connaissance de cause. Dans la région, les pays généralement vivent ensemble, se connaissent. Il y a une approche humaine et culturelle qui fait que tous les problèmes peuvent être abordés de manière à savoir comment les aborder de manière sereine et en cherchant évidemment des solutions plus appropriées, tandis que lorsque ces problèmes sont regardés par le multilatéralisme, on sent une certaine distance et une certaine inefficacité à aborder et à les régler comme telles. Donc je pense qu'effectivement l'appropriation régionale est une opportunité essentielle qui permettrait évidemment au multilatéralisme de se conforter. Et bien évidemment, il faut établir les mécanismes qu'il faut et surtout garder l'influence du multilatéralisme, mais en créant évidemment des attaches, des liens avec les communautés économiques régionales. Merci.
Okay. Multilateralism is important, but the regional knowledge can help multilateralism achieve what both the region and maybe the international community sees as a collective aim. I think that's the main message, Mr. President. Okay, thank you very much indeed, Your Excellency. President of Burundi, the floor is yours. President Ndayishimiye. Don't forget to press the button, please.
Merci beaucoup. D'abord, je voudrais me joindre aux autres pour remercier le président Erdoğan qui a bien organisé ce forum, un forum très important pour échanger sur les défis du moment. Nous parlons beaucoup du multilatéralisme, nous parlons de la gouvernance mondiale, parce qu'effectivement, le monde commence à sentir qu'il y a dislocation au niveau de la communauté mondiale. C'est pour cela qu'on commence à revoir nos origines. Parce que je considère que la communauté internationale, c'est comme une famille qui est fondée. Même dans une famille, le mari et son épouse doivent vivre en commun. Et s'il y a des problèmes qui causent des divorces, il doit y avoir un mécanisme, soit d'assumer le divorce, soit de les unir. Aujourd'hui, alors, on commence à voir comment cette communauté mondiale s'est créée afin de les renforcer. Toujours d'abord des États membres de cette communauté internationale qui se sont engagés à vivre ensemble, à se coaliser. Mais vous savez, quand vous voulez une vraie unité, il faut que chacun s'assure qu'il est bien tenu. Être bien tenu, c'est-à-dire, je peux tenir celui-ci de gauche par ma main gauche, lui, il me tient par sa main droite. Je tiens l'autre comme ça. Alors, si je suis rassuré que je suis tenu de tous côtés, je me sens bien, je suis debout. Mais quand il y a quelqu'un qui lâche, effectivement, ça se disloque. Or, pour aussi, moi, me rassurer que l'autre est joué à moi, il faut qu'on s'entende avec celui-ci. Donc, en fait de compte, il y a des moments où je ne contrôle pas ceux qui sont loin. Il faut cette gouvernance mondiale pour nous coordonner. Alors, si l'un des membres décide de lâcher la main, il y a un problème. Parce que cette communauté internationale, cette gouvernance internationale vient quand il y a l'unité. Parce que l'ONU, par exemple, l'ONU n'est pas une nation, n'est pas un État, mais c'est l'ensemble des États. Si alors les États ne s'entendent plus, sont disloqués, c'est-à-dire la société est disloquée, et vous commencez à sentir que la gouvernance mondiale commence à connaître des failles. Alors, où est-ce qu'on va pour résoudre ce problème? Il faut commencer par les origines. Les États qui s'unissent entre eux au niveau régional. Il faut que dans la région, nous soyons coordonnés parce que c'est facile. C'est facile de coordonner les régions parce que nous partageons des valeurs sociales. Nous avons un même mode de vie et de pensée. Nous avons des intérêts communs. Alors à ce moment-là, comme nous avons naturellement des sujets, des intérêts communs que nous partageons, chacun s'il perd l'autre, il perd automatiquement sa vie. Donc c'est facile d'unir la communauté parce que nous partageons les valeurs sociales, nous partageons des intérêts communs, nous partageons tout. Alors ça sera facile de nous coordonner. Et si la région est consolidée, ce sont les régions qui vont se consolider entre elles. C'est-à-dire, par exemple, l'Union africaine. Si l'Union africaine est consolidée et que c'est bien organisé, l'Union africaine va se joindre à une autre organisation continentale. Et en fait de compte, toutes les régions seront unies et la gouvernance mondiale prendra sa force. Donc, je pense que maintenant que nous constatons des failles au niveau de la gouvernance mondiale, que nous constatons des failles au niveau des relations entre les États, c'est le temps maintenant de voir comment consolider, encore une fois aller à la base, consolider les régions et continuer à consolider le monde entier. Voilà ce que je peux contribuer. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I really like the phrase that the international community is like a broken family, but the point you make is that the commonalities that we have as people of planet Earth are so much more than the differences that we have. And I really would like to hear from you later about how difficult it is to find that commonality in the African Union. And that would also be true of the European Union. These are two huge blocks, and maybe sometimes a bit too big to find the extreme commonalities that we have. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Vice President of the Republic of El Salvador, Félix Ulloa Jr., over to you, sir.
Thank you. Bonjour, buenos días, good morning, everyone. On behalf of El Salvador people and the government of President Bukele, we would like to thank the President and, of course, the Vice President of Turquie for having us here and give us the opportunity to share with you some reflection on the subject that has convened us this morning. First of all, I would like to remark that we do believe in multilateralism. No one nation can succeed being isolated. And El Salvador is part of the Central American nations, which is the natural bridge between the North America and South America, Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. But we are very small countries in territorial speaking. So we have the common goal to be unified. And we have created a system which is called Central American Integration System. It was created under a protocol in 1991, meaning 33, 34 years ago. And in that way, we tried to respond of the civil wars that was affected our nation in the 80s of the last century. Because at that time, it was still the Cold War, the two blocks, the East and the West. And we were under that thing. Actually, my generation grew up politically with this ideological and political conflict. Entered the Cold War, and now facing a different challenges for the humanity, such as immigration, forced immigration, the climate change, international crimes, organized crime, narco-trafficking, and so on. It is necessary for nations like ours to work together. And in that sense, the Central American integration system, it is not only an economical and political example. It is also a sort of cultural and historical challenge that we have taken in order to give more benefits to our population. So far, the SICA system has around 60 million inhabitants with an extension of 550,000 square kilometers. And it is a group of 8 nations, including the Dominican Republic, which is part of the Caribbean, but it has joined to our project many years ago. Why I'm telling that to you? Because regional projects are now probably the response, the answer to the failure of the globalist multilateralism. As we know, after the Second World War, it was created the United Nations as a model of how the nation could deal with the challenge of the post-Second World War. However, I think it is time to reflect on how this global multilateralism has been working. And it is still the real and the correct answer to the problems of this contemporary world. And we have serious doubts about that because we can see that the world is on fire and the United Nations cannot prevent the fire. Therefore, we need to work at least trying to heal the world from the damage of this fire. Fire that means international wars, Middle East, Europe, domestic conflicts that's according to the mandate, the United Nations has the mandate to deal and try to solve the conflicts. Actually, El Salvador was an example of the DPKO, the Department of Peacekeeping Operations of the United Nations. That's the way that we could solve our civil war problems through the dialogue and the negotiation. But now in the 21st century, our concerns are bigger because we are witnessing how the wars, as I mentioned already, are creating this lot of suffering for the nations that are living this tragedy of the wars. So our perspective as a regional organization in Central America and the Caribbean, we would like and we wish to be part of this international movement looking for the peace and trying to present that the enemies, the common enemies that the humanity has is not just nation against nation. It is the climate changes. It is some of these international issues like the crisis of the COVID-19, all of that. And remember that there is not planet B. This is the only planet that we have. And we have the duty and the responsibility to pass to the new generation a different world that we are living so far. For ending this reflection, we would like to think that the new order, which is in this working process now, with not only the alignment, military alignment, economic groups, or regional groups like the EU or African Union or the Organization of American States, but also other ways that the people is looking for solving this problem could be, and probably it should be, a new Jalta summit. We remember the Jalta in 1945, it was the main countries or powers that decide the results of the Second World War, who make the deal in the way that they will manage that order, which is the order that we inherited and the order that we think it is in decline. And now probably it could be in the picture other three main players. You know what I am talking about. I don't want to mention countries because I don't want to heal sensibilities, but the picture of those three leaders in the Jalta summit in 1945 should be three in the current world, in this precise moment, three others. And you know who will be in the picture, who will be included, and who will be excluded. So this is finally a reflection that we think that is the way to create this new order in peace, by diplomacy, in agreement, and defining each of these superpowers, the areas that they want to work with or in, and give us the peace that humanity, the mankind, is demanding. Thank you.
Vice President Ulloa, thank you so much indeed. And of course, it's in our lifetime that we have seen Central America experience civil wars and extreme insecurity. So to have you here to talk about how your region can take ownership and to deliver for its people is super interesting. And one thing I find particularly interesting is that the integration system in Central America, called SICA, has its own court, and it's made dozens of judgments for countries that have issues with their regional partners. We've got about 20 minutes left, so Đuro Matsut, please, over to you, Prime Minister of Serbia. Don't forget to press the button.
Thank you very much. And firstly, I would like to thank to the President Erdoğan for this very wisdom, I can say, launching this forum for discussion. And as I can see, we have all nations across the world, so we are covering all the regions. And as the Vice President Yilmaz said, I think that we have to go through the general approach, going to the local communities and to the local regional, actually, ownership of our local efforts, and go to the international law that is really of importance nowadays. So I'm coming from the country and from the region that faced lots of the turbulences through the history. And we are the country that is persistently on the side of the neutrality. That's why we keep very stable neutrality, and this is the policy of the current government, but also the strategy of the country. That's why the ownership of the regional ideas, regional interests nowadays is really even more increasing. We are facing with lots of challenges related to the international situation and the conflicts that are suddenly rising. That's why we have to strengthen in our regions, and the region of Southeast Europe, where I'm belonging to, but also the Mediterranean area, could be the best example of the reintegration, but always according to the rules and always going back to the United Nations Charter, because without that we could not actually freely exchange our ideas and position ourselves as the independent countries. This is very important to say. So with the integration in the region, my region is very vivid, and we have lots of nations that are through the history developing in the, I can say, the regional union of the countries. And I believe that the future of my country is within the European Union, because we are geographically and strategically located within the Europe. So we are actually on our path to the European Union, but we are very clearly understanding that we also have to follow the international law, which is of ultimate importance nowadays we can see in our, I can say, very turbulent world. So the regional, let's say, organization, the regional owning of what we are doing will be of ultimate importance for the region, that is also faced from one side with Turkey as a very strong partner on one side, and on the other side we have the European Union. So this is really a challenge to live today in this world, and especially in this part of the world. So thank you for the very beginning.
Thank you so much indeed, Prime Minister. One of the most interesting things for me about your country is how the outside world regards it, because as you say, your country feels its future is in the European Union, but while you're on the outside, you have a unique voice. There are things happening in Serbia that if they were happening in European Union territories, there would be an eyebrow lifted. But you have an independence at the moment, and joining an organization like the EU may dilute that, but obviously the world that we live in is about compromise. Thank you so much. From Azerbaijan, we have Hikmet Hacıyev from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, in the face of Cevdet Bey, I'm extremely thankful to our Turkey brothers and the Republic of Turkey, and also congratulate Turkey for such a successful organization of this Antalya Diplomatic Forum. At this time of the global turmoils and turbulences and global disorder, we needed such a gathering to come together and to discuss global challenges and issues. And with regard to the regional ownership, Azerbaijan is a staunch supporter of the concept of the regional ownership. What does it mean, regional ownership for Azerbaijan? What are the fundamental principles and cornerstone of that? For us, regional ownership is in a full regional belongingness and to resolving regional challenges and regional problems ourselves with our like-minded partners in our region, not to wait, expose or impose solutions towards our region. First, we should build our own order in our region instead of waiting for some others to come in our place to fulfill their own missions in our region. That's one fundamental issue. Second, for us, regional ownership also consists of the major elements, and one among many other things, the important element is a full regional shared responsibility to the regional affairs. It also should be complemented with a regional leadership, but we're also trying together with our sister and brother countries in our region to fulfill. And it's also regional cooperation and regional integration. And all of these components are coming together and fulfilling our mission for the regional ownership. In practical terms, what does it mean? Let me provide you with practical examples, how we're fulfilling it. Certainly we are applying diplomacy and dialogue, and also on the bilateral, trilateral, even a quadrilateral level, and applying very sophisticated models of the diplomacy at our region. One important component at the bilateral level, because for every and each country, for every region now, security matters a lot, because we are living in the deficit of the security at a global level. In our region, Turkey-Azerbaijan bilateral cooperation is an important cornerstone of the regional peace and security. And Turkey and Azerbaijan brotherly cooperation and relationship and emotions and values that we are sharing, but leaders of the two countries institutionalize this relationship and based on the Shusha declaration that we have signed. And we didn't stop there. And we have transformed bilateral cooperation in the trilateral model of the cooperation, and again, fulfilling the full regional ownership. Here, Turkey-Azerbaijan-Georgia cooperation, or Turkey-Azerbaijan-Iranian cooperation, or we have also stretched our hand to our Central Asian brothers. Trilaterally or multilaterally, we built in a mechanism of the cooperation. At a practical level, it serves the interests of the both countries. Then let me also provide you in practical thematic areas of the regional ownership and regional cooperation. One of them is an energy security, energy cooperation. Again, we didn't wait for somebody else to come and to fulfill the mission of the energy security in our region. And we started ourselves to bring Azerbaijan's own carbohydrate resources from the Caspian Sea, first through the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline to the shore of Turkey, and currently this pipeline serves for the interest of the global energy security, and certainly it also serves interests of the Turkey and Azerbaijan. Again, we demonstrated regional leadership, and it also provided cross-regional prosperity and cooperation. And here, more than anything else, Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict and the resolution of this conflict matters. And here, again, we demonstrated in our leadership. This conflict has been resolved. It's now already in the past. And Azerbaijan, in a unique way, demonstrating military political means to resolve the conflict. Very thoughtful of our territorial integrity and sovereignty. And we also now stretched our hand of the peace to the Republic of Armenia and last August, and two countries in the presence of the American leadership, and we initialed normalization agreement between the two countries. For 30 years, OSCE Minsk Group, it was an external imposition of the solution towards the region, provided complete failure for the resolution of the conflict. Once again, it shows that when you are taking full regional leadership and ownership for your region, you can deliver. And we have delivered. There is a new status quo in the region. Caucasus is peaceful, and nevertheless, in our immediate neighborhood, we have emergence of the new hotbeds of the conflicts and outbreaks of the war, but South Caucasus is peaceful. And within that also matters regional connectivity projects, where we are being a landlocked country, and our brothers in the Central Asia, they are also landlocked, but together with them, we are building Trans-Caspian connectivity. First step in that direction was Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey cooperation, Baku-Tbilisi cars. Now we are expanding, and we think that Zengezur corridor model will provide additional connectivity for ourselves and for our brothers in the Central Asia. But in the meantime, talking about the regional ownership, and we shouldn't be misunderstood, it's not about the regional isolation. In a sense, again, taking about regional ownership, we're providing the platform for engagement and cooperation for our partners from other parts of the world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm just looking to the back of the room because I need an indication about how long we've got left, but I think it's probably about 12 minutes or so, so the time is very short. President Ndayishimiye, I need to ask you, as the chairperson of the African Union, there is how exactly do I put it? It's a kind of a satirical Twitter account. It's called Africa as a Country, because for so much of the outside world, Africa is homogenous, but of course it's not. How easy or difficult is it to find a regional consensus within such a huge organization as the African Union? Don't forget to press the button.
Merci. Je crois que c'est possible parce qu'effectivement, même les États membres de l'Union africaine ont déjà constaté qu'il y a aussi des points d'inefficacité dans la gouvernance de l'Union africaine. C'est ainsi que nous sommes en train d'opérer des réformes. On a mis en place une équipe qui est en train d'analyser comment opérer des réformes afin de rendre efficaces les institutions de l'Union africaine. Mais aussi, ce que je constate, cette possibilité, c'est que l'Union africaine est devenue aussi coordinateur des communautés économiques régionales. Vous voyez que l'Union africaine a des communautés économiques régionales et ces communautés partagent ces intérêts communs dont j'ai parlé. Par exemple, l'exemple que je peux donner, c'est l'autorité du lac Tanganyika. La République démocratique du Congo, le Burundi, la Tanzanie, la Zambie partagent le lac Tanganyika. Et nous avons vu que c'est un lac, d'abord un lac le plus profond du monde après le lac Baïkal, mais aussi c'est la première réserve d'eau douce. Et ça contient des poissons, beaucoup d'espèces de poissons. Donc ensemble, nous pouvons exploiter à l'intérêt de nous tous ce lac. Mais cette autorité, mais aussi, peut donner l'intérêt. Ce que nous trouvons dans le lac Tanganyika peut servir à d'autres États. C'est-à-dire finalement, les communautés régionales vont se coordonner, mais aussi travailler sous coordination de l'Union africaine. Et j'ai trouvé que c'est l'efficace. Il y a aussi pour des questions de paix et de sécurité, il y a l'architecture pour la paix et la sécurité en Afrique. Cette architecture aussi pourra aider à ce que les États retrouvent la paix. Il y a des conflits entre les États. Il y a des conflits internes aux États. Donc nous devons trouver des mécanismes pour stabiliser toute l'Afrique. Je pense qu'avec ces réformes, que nous allons opérer, ça va rendre efficace la gouvernance de l'Afrique.
President Tshisekedi, you wanted to say something?
Oui, bien sûr. Merci. Je dirais que pour réussir évidemment à relever ce défi, l'Afrique doit réaliser deux objectifs. Le premier, c'est d'abord de respecter ses engagements, ses principes, notamment celui de la souveraineté des États et de l'intégrité territoriale des États. Ensuite, c'est celui de réaliser les objectifs qu'il s'est fixés. Et ici, je fais référence à cette initiative dans laquelle j'ai engagé mon pays et sur laquelle d'ailleurs plusieurs pays africains se sont engagés, ont ratifié évidemment cet accord. C'est l'accord de la ZLECAf, la zone de libre-échange continentale. Je pense évidemment, on parlait des régions tout à l'heure, que nous réussirons à gagner ce pari en développant nos communautés économiques régionales, en les interconnectant déjà, en les intégrant économiquement et en développant des infrastructures. L'Afrique est gigantesque. La République démocratique du Congo, à elle seule, représente à peu près toute l'Europe de l'Ouest, vous vous imaginez, y compris le Royaume-Uni. Donc, c'est une grande superficie qui a 9 voisins et nous devons donc réussir à intégrer tout cela en développant justement des projets intégrateurs structurants qui vont nous permettre à la fois de nous interconnecter, je l'ai dit, mais également de développer de la richesse par la transformation évidemment locale et l'Afrique. Le grand avantage que j'ai toujours dit que nous avons, la plus grande ressource que nous avons par rapport aux autres États du monde, aux autres régions du monde, c'est la ressource humaine. En Afrique, la jeunesse est très, très importante, très nombreuse d'ailleurs et très active. Nous devons ici réussir à l'encadrer, à la former et à la préparer aux défis à venir. Moi, je vois vraiment un avenir, j'allais dire, reluisant pour l'Afrique, parce que tout simplement, c'est un continent qui a des atouts, à la fois par rapport, j'ai parlé du capital humain, mais également des ressources naturelles qui sont des réponses aux problèmes que nous avons dans le monde aujourd'hui. Je pense au changement climatique, je pense à la nouvelle industrie des énergies renouvelables. Et je pense que l'Afrique pourrait donc, si elle prend à bras-le-corps ces problèmes, elle pourrait être un acteur essentiel dans les défis que rencontre le monde en ce moment.
This is utterly critical, the human resource and the natural resources that Africa has, and the way the outside world is looking that it wants some of it. But Africa's ownership will be critical, as you say, both of you, Mr. Presidents, to the future of your continent. I have a very dear friend who's from Nairobi. We have 5 minutes left. He flies from London to Nairobi 3 times a year. He says, you can't imagine, Adnan, most of my flight is over Sudan. I mean, Africa is huge, as you say. Okay, you see the clock, gentlemen, we have 8 minutes. So let's be brief if we can. This question to the 2 countries who are just on the outside of the European Union, but could in the future be. So that's for the Vice President of Turkey and the Prime Minister of Serbia. Let's start with you. Your Excellency, Cevdet Yilmaz, in terms of, do you see the EU as being mostly of economic benefit or something more?
Actually, let me start by emphasizing that being independent does not mean to be isolated. I mean, a sovereign nation is at a position to decide on its own connections. It doesn't mean to be isolated from regional or global structures. That is very important. In that context, we have to respect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of all nations. But to make it more effective, we have to, of course, combine it with abilities, capacities to make their own decision in their own best interest. In that sense, I believe that connectivity is very critical. Connectivity in trade, investment, in energy, in new technologies, digitalization. On the one hand, we have these conflicts, we have this, pessimistic outlook for the global environment. But on the other hand, we also have this prospect, new opportunities for new connectivities. And in that sense, in our region, we are very much looking forward for a peace in Caucasia, Southern Caucasia, that will connect Europe with Central Asia, strengthen the middle corridor. We are also looking forward to establish a development road from Turkey all the way down to, Persian Sea, connecting Gulf countries to Europe and to the rest of the world in an alternative channel. And also Syria, with its new stability, gives us new opportunities for logistics in transport, in energy, in many other respects. And in all these conditions, European Union, I believe, can play a more active role. I do believe that its economic power is not transformed into political power as much as it deserves, actually. And I believe that a connection, a stronger relation between Turkey and Europe will be a win-win situation for Turkey and Europe and for the rest of the world, because Europe is based on these principles of peace, prosperity, more welfare for the people, and also a fairer international environment. That's why I believe that Europe needs more leadership. Europe needs more political, capability to reshape the debates in our world. And in that sense, Turkey is ready to work with all regional blocs, including, of course, Europe, which is very special for us. And as we are in between three continents, Asia, Europe, and Africa, we are also in a position to play a very positive role in that direction. Thank you.
Well, of course, Turkey is already in a customs union with the European Union, so there is a way to have regional ownership without a complete kind of subjugation of your own national interests for those of the greater good of the collective. Prime Minister Matsut, how do you see the benefits of European Union membership for your country? As both the presidents sitting to my left have indicated, that economic prosperity brings so many other benefits, and also increased security comes with economic prosperity, because when people are happy in their own lives, they don't demand too much outside intervention, because their country is taking care of them, and everybody is more concerned about their daily lives than anything else, really.
Absolutely, but something what was mentioned by the president of Congo is that they are surrounded by 9 countries. This is interesting. We are surrounded with 7 countries. So this is also something to think about. When you are isolated and living without neighbors, then you will not feel the soul of the nations that are living around you. And especially if you are coming from the same, let's say, historical backgrounds, with the same historical roots, splitted with the blocks in the past and now reconnected and rejoining. This means that the political feeling and the political neighbor feeling will be of the ultimate importance. If you want to flourish, as the president of Congo said, Africa has lots of potentials, but I also believe that Europe, as the European Union, but also Southeast Europe, from Europe to Turkey, could also has lots of potentials. So if we want to talk about the, let's say, regional relations, regional cooperations, that should be seen in 2 directions, in the economic, but also political ones. Without politics, we could not live, of course. But there is sometimes a loss of political feeling, because we are the country with the longest, how can I say, experience waiting for entering into the EU for about 15 years. and we are the country with the highest, let's say, economical impact on that way, in the positive way. But we are always, you know, surrounded with some political requests and new additions. So politics and economy should go together. We should not split those two things if we want to increase the impact of our relations in the region. And today, because of the situation, this regional ownership of our own economical relations, but also political, from the surrounding area is really important. So we have to reconsider everything in the way of better living of our citizens within the countries. So this is something that we have to think for the better future of the regions. That's why I think that the regional reunion in some way is of the ultimate importance, definitely.
That's it.